Hello, I'm Amy Zawi with the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert Report for Wednesday, November 21st. BDS, colleges, and desserts. Thanksgiving is upon us, and many U.S. college students thankfully will head home or to nearby friends and relatives' homes to enjoy a home-cooked meal and some quiet time. Indeed, my own daughter is looking forward to this rest. College campuses, however, are becoming increasingly hostile to Jewish and Zionist students, and college campuses in the U.S. are not necessarily taking a hard line to make a safe space for these students, even in the wake of tragedies, including that at the Tree of Life Synagogue. Not only that, many college campuses are not dissuading discriminatory rhetoric, even, again, in the wake of a shooting. Most college campuses take their PC stance of being tolerant, progressive, and inclusive and stop it and draw a line when it comes to Jewish students, Christian students, or students who support either. However, the SJP used an image of the UCLA Bruin Bear for their NSJP conference happening in November. Now, UCLA vehemently does not agree with the use of their copyrighted image in the conference and the NSJP, National Students for Justice in Palestine group, logos and advertisements for their conference. They are using the Bruin Bear with a kite held onto bombs to illustrate this symbolic connection to the incendiary kites and balloons and bombs which have been hoisted over southern Israel, terrorizing the civilian communities in the south. Thousands of acres of nature reserves have been burned down by these Palestinian arson terror mechanisms. So the use of this kite in the image for the NSJP is disturbing and illustrates their direct support for these terrorist actions. Moreover, UCLA is mortified that the Bruin Bear is the one carrying those kites and has sent, attorneys have sent letters repeatedly to the organization to remove the use of their bear from that. At the time of this reporting, that was still not done, but we will continue to follow up. These kites also feature things like swastikas, and this is overt discrimination and, in my opinion, a form of hate speech. And yet, except for a few attorneys' letters, the group goes unscathed, and the UCLA facilities where the conference is taking place is still up for their use. Let's hear a little bit from SJP leaderships and speakers slated at the conference so you understand really who they are. I have a printout here of their photos with their quotes, and I will read a few of them to you. Amin Abdel Khalik at the University of Tennessee. If you condemn the action of an Egyptian not shaking hands with an Israeli, then you are the problem. I wouldn't even compete against one, meaning an Israeli. This was in response to some pushback when athletes refused to shake hands with Israeli athletes during a competition. In Arabic, we don't say the 4th of July, notes Sarah Abdulmuti, SJP activist at the University of Houston. She retweeted an Arabic phrase which, translated into English, means "may he damn the father of Israel." And that is what folks were saying to each other, which means God bless America, and I think it's beautiful. And this is retweeted by Sarah Abdulmuti. Nancy El-Haran, SJP activist at the Temple University, on one of her social medias, quote, "I feel bad that Jews had to go through harsh treatment, but why are you doing the same thing to Palestinians? Hashtag Holocaust Memorial Day." Aziz Abdullah, an activist at the University of Maryland, for the SJP, Zionists define Jews as a race to serve their imperialist ambitions. Those same Zionists are now defining Muslims as a race via far-reaching influence of media propaganda. And Mohammed Hamad, SJP activist at Harvard University, recommended on a Facebook thread conversation that the host of a potluck dinner should have been punched because he had tribe hummus on his table. Tribe hummus is a product of Israel. On another note, just to illustrate how BDS and its players seem to weave their way into our everyday lives, as we Americans approach Thanksgiving with visions of desserts dancing in our head, Ben & Jerry's this fall issued a new flavor called Pecan Resistance, and it is promoted by and includes an image of Linda Sarsour, who I reported on last week. Now, many on the left had belittled the pushback against the ice cream, saying that it is petty to connect and protest an ice cream regarding a flavor. But indeed, it must be called out because it is subtle, and these are the ways evil notions and prejudices will seep into our cultural consciousness. And who was the one to connect a political event to ice cream in the first place? It was Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's Israel, which operates independently from the global and U.S. operations, issued a press release that they will not carry this flavor in their stores in Israel, nor produce it in their factories. Ben & Jerry's Israel produces all of the product sold in Israel using local vendors. This ice cream is also a quasi-fundraiser, providing contributions to the Women's March. Again, I reported on that last week, which is led by Linda Sarsour and Tamika Mallory, two known anti-Semites who buddy up and praise Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, who recently not only led Death to America chants in Iran, also has had decades worth of documented anti-Semitic language, rhetoric, postings, and speeches. Mallory, however, was disinvited earlier this year from an Australia forum after she was called out for attending Farrakhan's February speech where he made several horrific remarks about the Jewish people and called the state of modern Israel, the founding of the state of modern Israel, as a crime against humanity. And then she posted a picture with him noting he's the greatest of all time. Keep in mind that as recently as September, Sarsour gave a speech where she said to American Muslims, "Please do not humanize Zionists." Sarsour represents a long history with BDS, boycott, divest, and sanction movements, and she is noted as saying nothing is creepier than Zionism, and she has many times equated Zionism with racism. Well, Julie Lenars, a senior fellow at the Israel Project, reported to thetower.org that the whitewashing of Sarsour by liberal media outlets is quite extraordinary, especially given the picture that it emerges that she's anything but a feminist and a defender of free speech. She is not a feminist, she wrote in her essay. She supports a culture that is forcing millions of women into religious slavery. She's a false apostle selling her regressive views to a blinded liberal audience. Please keep in mind that regardless of what somebody says that might support your position on a particular issue, look at the fruit they're bearing throughout their career and activity. From college campuses to women marches supposedly about democratic and domestic issues, and to ice cream delicacy, BDS and its evil supporters are seeping its way into every corner of our lives, and we must be aware of it. Matthew 7:15-17 tells us, "Be aware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will recognize them by their fruit. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes? Are figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit." Peter also reminds us in 1 Peter 5 to be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around you like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Jeremiah, Psalms, Proverbs all echo the similar sentiments in various ways, that the enemy deceives us and lies and put on false masks. He may seem to be our friend. He could even be our, quote, Klansman. As most of our grandparents have taught us over the decades, we are defined by the company we keep. So be mindful of the organizations that you support on a variety of levels, from desserts to women's issues and domestic marches. Know who your leadership is and what fruit they're bearing outside the particular vein you're looking at. I don't need to eat pecan resistance ice cream. I'll find another ice cream. In fact, I don't need to eat any of Ben & Jerry's flavors, even though they're quite tasty. They have proven that they will bear bad fruit. Shavua Tov, have a great week, and happy Thanksgiving.